I, Michael, 28M, proposed to my girlfriend, Tanya, 27F, of 4 years last month. We were both excited and started planning our engagement party right away. Tanya has always been close to her childhood friend, Steve, 29M, and I never had any issues with their friendship until now. Some background: Tanya and Steve grew up together in a small town called Millbrook. Their families were neighbors, and they've been friends for over 20 years. They went to the same schools, joined the same clubs, and were practically inseparable throughout their childhood and teenage years. Tanya was always the studious one, while Steve was more of a class clown. They balanced each other out, with Tanya keeping Steve grounded and Steve helping Tanya loosen up. When Tanya moved to the city for college, Steve followed her a year later. They ended up at the same university, though in different programs. Tanya studied business, while Steve pursued a degree in graphic design. Even in college, they remained close, often studying together and hanging out in the same friend groups. I met Tanya at work 5 years ago. We both started as interns at a marketing firm and hit it off immediately. We bonded over our shared love for indie films and obscure 80s bands. Our first date was at a small, quirky cinema that was showing a Wes Anderson reviewing. I remember being nervous, but Tanya's easy laughter and genuine interest in my thoughts made me feel comfortable right away. Tanya introduced me to Steve early in our relationship, and while I found him a bit clingy, I didn't think much of it at first. Steve was always around, joining us for movie nights, dinner parties, and even tagging along on what I thought were date nights. I tried to be understanding, knowing how long they'd been friends. Over the years, I noticed that Steve always seemed to be around whenever Tanya and I had a disagreement. He'd show up at her place with ice cream and movies, or take her out for drinks to cheer her up. I brought this up with Tanya once, but she assured me that Steve was just being a good friend and that I had nothing to worry about. One particular incident stands out in my memory. About 2 years into our relationship, Tanya and I had a big fight about our future. I wanted to move in together, but Tanya was hesitant, saying she wasn't ready for that level of commitment. We both said things we regretted, and Tanya stormed out of my apartment. The next day, I found out that she had spent the night at Steve's place. When I confronted her about it, she said Steve had just been comforting her as a friend. I tried to believe her, but it planted a seed of doubt in my mind. Despite these occasional hiccups, our relationship grew stronger. We supported each other through career changes, family issues, and personal growth. Tanya was there for me when my dad had a health scare last year, and I stood by her when she decided to quit her corporate job to start her own business. Through it all, Steve remained a constant presence in our lives. When I decided to propose, I spent months planning the perfect moment. I knew Tanya loved the ocean, so I arranged a weekend getaway to a beautiful coastal town. I proposed at sunset on a secluded beach, and Tanya's tearful yes made me the happiest man alive. We celebrated with champagne and called our families to share the news. Tanya insisted on calling Steve right after her parents, which I found a bit odd, but I was too elated to dwell on it. As we started planning our engagement party, Tanya was adamant about having it at a specific venue, a rustic barn on the outskirts of the city. It turned out that this was where she, Steve, and their high school friends used to hang out during summers. I would have preferred something more modern, but I wanted Tanya to be happy, so I agreed. The day of the engagement party arrived, and everything seemed perfect at first. The barn was beautifully decorated with fairy lights and wildflowers. Our families and friends mingled, sharing stories and congratulating us. Tanya looked radiant in a pale blue dress, her engagement ring sparkling as she gestured animatedly while talking to guests. Steve arrived late, already tipsy, and immediately started making snide comments about our relationship. He kept bringing up embarrassing stories about Tanya from their childhood and college days, which made her visibly uncomfortable. He told everyone about the time Tanya got so drunk at a college party that she tried to climb a tree and fell face first into a bush. He also mentioned how Tanya used to have a crush on their high school English teacher, making her blush furiously. As the night went on, Steve got drunker and louder. He started telling everyone how he and Tanya were soulmates and how they had a pact to marry each other if they were both single by 30. Tanya tried to laugh it off, but I could see she was getting annoyed. He then proceeded to show everyone old photos of him and Tanya that he had on his phone, including some from spring break trips that Tanya seemed embarrassed about. The final straw came when Steve decided to make a toast. He stood up, swaying slightly, and said, "To Tanya and Michael. May their marriage last as long as it takes for Tanya to realize she's meant to be with me." There was an awkward silence, and then Steve stumbled and knocked over the cake table, ruining the cake and shattering glasses everywhere. I was furious. I asked Steve to leave, but he refused, saying he had every right to be there as Tanya's best friend. Tanya's brother, Tom, and my best friend, Dave, had to physically remove him from the party. As they were dragging him out, Steve shouted, "Tanya, remember our promise. It's not too late." The rest of the night was tense, and many guests left early. Tanya's parents looked uncomfortable, and my mom kept shooting me concerned glances. Our friends tried to salvage the evening by starting some party games, but the atmosphere remained awkward. After everyone was gone, I tried to talk to Tanya about what happened. To my shock, she defended Steve, saying he was just drunk and didn't mean any harm. She said I was overreacting and that Steve has always been there for her. We got into a huge argument, with me pointing out all the times Steve had interfered in our relationship, and Tanya accusing me of being jealous and controlling. I brought up how Steve always seemed to insert himself into our relationship problems, and how his soulmate's comment was completely inappropriate. Tanya countered by saying that Steve had been going through a tough time lately, having recently broken up with his girlfriend, and that we should be more understanding. The argument ended with Tanya storming out and going to stay with her sister. It's been 3 days, and she's still not home. She's texted me saying she needs space to think about things. I'm hurt and confused. Am I overreacting? Should I just accept that Steve will always be a part of our lives, even if he clearly has feelings for my fiancée? I love Tanya, but I don't know if I can marry someone who puts her friends' feelings above our relationship. I'm considering calling off the engagement, but I'm worried I might be making a hasty decision. The thought of losing Tanya is devastating, but the idea of always being second to Steve is equally painful. I've tried talking to my friends about this, but they're divided. Some think I should give Tanya an ultimatum, while others say I need to be more understanding of her long-standing friendship with Steve. My mom thinks I should call off the engagement, saying that these issues will only get worse after marriage. I'm lost and could really use some outside perspective. How do I handle this situation? Is there any way to salvage my relationship with Tanya while also addressing the Steve problem? Or am I fighting a losing battle? Update 1. It's been a week since my last post, and things have only gotten more complicated. Many of you suggested that I talk to Tanya calmly and express my concerns about Steve. I took your advice and asked Tanya to meet me at a neutral location, a quiet cafe we both like. When we met, Tanya seemed defensive from the start. She was wearing the necklace Steve had given her for her 21st birthday, which I took as a bad sign. I tried to explain how Steve's behavior at the engagement party made me feel, and how his constant presence in our relationship was becoming an issue for me. I told her about how uncomfortable I felt when Steve would show up unannounced at our date nights, or how he always seemed to know about our arguments before I had a chance to tell anyone. I mentioned that while I respected their friendship, I felt that Steve didn't respect our relationship. Tanya listened, but then she dropped a bombshell. She and Steve had kissed once, years ago, before she met me. According to Tanya, it happened during their college days when they were both drunk at a party. She said it meant nothing and they both agreed to forget about it and remain friends. She swore she never had romantic feelings for Steve and that she chose to be with me. I was stunned. Not only because of the kiss but because Tanya had never mentioned this before. When I asked why she kept it from me, she said she didn't think it was important and didn't want to create unnecessary drama. This led to another argument, with me feeling betrayed and Tanya accusing me of making a big deal out of nothing. During our heated discussion, Tanya's phone kept buzzing with messages. I glimpsed Steve's name on the screen several times. When I pointed this out, Tanya got defensive again and said I was being paranoid. She refused to show me the messages, saying I needed to trust her. The conversation then took an unexpected turn. Tanya started bringing up times when she felt I had let her down. She mentioned how I missed her art show opening last year because of a work emergency, or how I forgot to call her on her birthday until late in the evening. She said that Steve was always there for her during these moments, implying that I wasn't as reliable as him. I tried to defend myself, reminding her of all the times I had been there for her, like when I stayed up all night helping her prepare for a big presentation, or when I surprised her with a weekend getaway after she lost a major client. But Tanya seemed determined to paint Steve as the perfect friend and me as the neglectful boyfriend. The meeting ended with both of us angry and frustrated. Tanya went back to her sister's place, and I returned to our empty apartment, feeling more lost than ever. As I sat alone in our living room, surrounded by photos of our happy times together, I couldn't help but wonder if those moments were as meaningful to Tanya as they were to me. To make matters worse, I received a call from Steve the next day. He apologized for his behavior at the party, blaming it on too much alcohol. But then he had the audacity to tell me that I should back off and give Tanya some space. He said he knew her better than anyone and that I was suffocating her with my jealousy. I was furious but managed to keep my cool. I told Steve that his behavior was inappropriate and that he needed to respect my relationship with Tanya. He laughed it off, saying that I was too uptight and that Tanya needed someone who could keep up with her. Before I could respond, he hung up. The call left me shaken. It was clear that Steve had no intention of backing down, and worse, he seemed to think he had some claim on Tanya. I couldn't help but wonder if Tanya had been talking to him about our problems, giving him ammunition to use against me. I spent the next few days in a daze, going through the motions at work but unable to focus on anything. My colleagues noticed my distraction, but I couldn't bring myself to explain the situation to them. How could I admit that my fiancé's best friend was trying to sabotage our relationship? I tried reaching out to Tanya's sister, hoping to get some insight into what Tanya was thinking. But her sister was evasive, saying only that Tanya needed time to sort out her feelings. This didn't reassure me at all. What feelings did she need to sort out? Shouldn't her feelings for me, her fiancé, be clear? As the days passed, I found myself obsessively checking Tanya's social media accounts, looking for any sign of what she might be thinking or doing. I noticed that she had changed her profile picture from one of us together to a solo shot of herself. It was a small thing, but it felt like a stab to my heart. I'm at my wit's end. I love Tanya, but I'm starting to wonder if our relationship can survive this. The trust between us feels broken, and I'm not sure how to rebuild it. Some friends are telling me to fight for the relationship, while others are suggesting I cut my losses and move on. I've decided to give Tanya 1 week to sort out her feelings. If she can't commit to our relationship and set clear boundaries with Steve, I think I'll have no choice but to end things. It's going to be a long week of soul searching for both of us. Part of me hopes that Tanya will realize what she's risking and come back to me, ready to work on our relationship. But another part of me is preparing for the worst, steeling myself for the possibility that this might be the end of our story together. As I wait for Tanya's decision, I find myself reflecting on our relationship, wondering if there were signs I missed along the way. Were Steve's feelings for Tanya always this obvious, and I was just too blind to see them? Or did something change recently to bring these issues to the surface? I'm trying to stay busy to keep my mind off things. I've thrown myself into work, taken up running, and even started learning to cook, something Tanya always encouraged me to do. But in the quiet moments, when I'm alone with my thoughts, I can't help but wonder, What will my life look like if Tanya chooses Steve over me? Update 2. It's been 2 weeks since my last update, and I'm writing this with a heavy heart. The situation with Tanya and Steve has come to a head, and not in the way I had hoped. After giving Tanya a week to think things over, we agreed to meet at our apartment to talk. I was nervous but hopeful that we could work things out. I spent the day before our meeting cleaning the apartment, making it look just the way Tanya likes it. I even bought her favorite flowers, hoping to remind her of the good times we've shared in our home. When Tanya arrived, she seemed subdued and wouldn't meet my eyes. I noticed she wasn't wearing her engagement ring, and my heart sank. We sat down on the couch where we'd spent so many evenings cuddled up watching movies, but now it felt like there was an ocean between us. As we sat down, Tanya finally opened up. She admitted that my ultimatum had forced her to confront her feelings, and she realized that she couldn't choose between Steve and me. She said she loved me, but she also couldn't imagine her life without Steve in it. I was devastated. I asked her point blank if she had feelings for Steve, and after a long pause, she nodded. She said she had been suppressing these feelings for years, convincing herself that they were just close friends. But the events of the past few weeks had brought everything to the surface. Tanya then revealed that she and Steve had been spending a lot of time together while she was staying at her sister's place. They had long talks about their history and their feelings. She swore nothing physical happened, but the emotional intimacy was clear. She told me about how Steve had been there for her during some of the toughest times in her life, when her parents were going through a nasty divorce, when she was struggling with depression in college, and when she was unsure about her career path. She said that Steve understood her in a way that no one else did, not even me. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. All the signs had been there, but I had chosen to ignore them. I remembered all the times Steve had shown up uninvited to our dates, all the inside jokes between them that I never understood, all the long phone calls that would end abruptly when I entered the room. Tanya was crying now, saying she never meant to hurt me and that she was confused about what she wanted. She said she loved me and valued the life we had built together, but she couldn't deny her feelings for Steve any longer. In that moment, I knew what I had to do. With a calm I didn't feel, I told Tanya that I was calling off the engagement. I couldn't be with someone who wasn't sure about me, and I deserved someone who would choose me without hesitation. Tanya seemed shocked, as if she had expected me to fight for her. She started to protest, saying we could work things out, that she just needed more time. But I stood firm. I told her that I couldn't be in a relationship where I was always wondering if I was second best. I asked Tanya to pack her things and leave. As she was gathering her stuff, sobbing quietly, I removed my engagement ring and placed it on the coffee table next to the wilting flowers I had bought earlier. Watching Tanya pack up her life from our shared apartment was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Each item she took felt like she was erasing a piece of our life together. The framed photo of us from our first vacation, the silly mug I had given her for our second anniversary, the oversized sweater of mine she always wore on lazy Sundays, all of it went into boxes, taking my dreams of our future along with them. As Tanya was about to leave, she turned to me with tears in her eyes and said, "I'm sorry, Michael. I never meant for this to happen." I couldn't bring myself to respond. I just nodded, fighting back my own tears. As the door closed behind her, I felt a finality that broke something inside me. The next few days were a blur. I informed our families and close friends about the broken engagement. Most were supportive, though Tanya's family was upset and tried to convince me to reconsider. Her mom called me, pleading that Tanya was just confused and that we could work things out. But I knew in my heart that it was over. I've since learned from mutual friends that Tanya moved in with her sister permanently and that Steve has been spending a lot of time there. It hurts, but it also confirms that I made the right decision. Some friends have told me that they've seen Tanya and Steve together around town, looking very couple-like. Each time I hear something like this, it's like ripping off a bandage that hasn't had time to heal. I'm trying to focus on healing now. I've thrown myself into work, taking on extra projects to keep my mind occupied. I've started hitting the gym regularly to clear my head and work out some of the anger and frustration I'm feeling. It's not easy, but I know I'll get through this. I've also started the process of untangling our lives. Canceling wedding vendors, returning gifts, dividing up our shared possessions, it's all painfully reminiscent of the future we'll never have. But each task completed feels like a small step towards moving on. Thank you all for your support and advice throughout this ordeal. It's been a painful lesson, but I'm grateful for the clarity it's brought me. I know I deserve someone who will choose me unequivocally, and I won't settle for less in the future. Update 3, it's been a month since my last update, and I wanted to share some final thoughts on this chapter of my life. The aftermath of ending my engagement with Tanya has been challenging, but I'm slowly finding my feet again. I've had moments of doubt and sadness, but overall, I know I made the right choice for myself. A week after Tanya moved out, I received a long email from her. She apologized for hurting me and explained that she and Steve had decided to give a romantic relationship a try. While it stung to read this, I wasn't surprised. She went on to say that she never intended for things to happen this way, but that she and Steve had realized they couldn't deny their feelings anymore. She asked for my forgiveness and said she hoped we could be friends someday. I chose not to respond to the email, maintaining the no contact rule I had set for myself. I've been focusing on rebuilding my life as a single person. I've redecorated the apartment, removing all traces of Tanya and our life together. It's been therapeutic in a way, like I'm reclaiming my space and my identity. I painted the walls a color Tanya always vetoed, rearranged the furniture, and bought some new art pieces that reflect my own tastes. My friends and family have been incredibly supportive. They've kept me busy with dinners, game nights, and outdoor activities. Last weekend, my college buddies organized a camping trip. Sitting around the campfire, sharing stories and laughing, I felt a glimmer of my old self returning. I've also started seeing a counselor to work through my feelings about the breakup and to address some trust issues that have surfaced. It's been helpful to have an objective person to talk to about everything that happened. Through these sessions, I'm learning to set healthier boundaries and to recognize red flags in relationships. As for Steve, I heard through the grapevine that he and Tanya went on a romantic getaway together. While this information initially upset me, I realized that their relationship is no longer my concern. I've blocked both of them on all social media platforms to avoid any unwanted updates about their lives. Work has been a good distraction. I've taken on a challenging new project that's keeping me busy and engaged. My boss has noticed my increased focus and dedication, and there's been talk of a potential promotion. It's nice to have something positive to look forward to. I've also reconnected with some old hobbies that I had let slide during my relationship with Tanya. I've joined a local photography club and have been spending weekends exploring the city, camera in hand. It's reminded me of the person I was before Tanya, and the person I can be on my own. Looking back, I can see the red flags I missed throughout my relationship with Tanya. Her inability to set boundaries with Steve, the emotional dependence they had on each other, and the way she constantly sought his approval, it was all there, I just didn't want to see it. This experience has taught me a lot about self-respect and the importance of clear boundaries in relationships. I know now what I want and deserve in a partner, and I won't settle for less. I've learned that love shouldn't feel like a constant struggle or competition.